Do you ever get that feeling, that kind of business angst, where you feel like, I don't know enough to start that company, or maybe take on more responsibility?
Yeah. Or even just feeling confident sometime.
Exactly. Or that imposter syndrome feeling, like you're just waiting to be found out.
Definitely. It's pretty common, I think.
Well, today we're doing a deep dive into some key ideas from Josh Kaufman's book, The Personal MBA, a world-class business education in a single volume.
Great book. Really practical.
It is. And this isn't about getting a traditional MBA, right? It's more about the core principles, the things that make any venture work.
Exactly. What really drives success.
So our mission here is to pull out the most important nuggets for you, stuff that can help you make better decisions and, actually do things.
Take action. Yeah.
There's that Emerson quote, something like, methods are a million, but principles are few.
Grasp the principles.
Right. And you could figure out your own methods. Kaufman himself kind of did that. He built his own personal MBA without all the debt.
And that's a huge point he makes about the traditional route. The cost is, well, it's staggering.
Like, how much are we talking?
Often around $125,000, which, means maybe $1,500 a month in loan payments.
Wow. For 10 years.
For 10 years. Non-deductible. It can basically eat up all your extra income for a decade.
Ouch.
And there's the risk, too. You might be getting this expensive credential for a job you could get anyway, or maybe already have.
Right, through experience or self-study?
Exactly. Like Andy Walter from P&G said, investing that same time and energy into just doing great work and learning on the job, that can be just as powerful.
So it begs the question, what are these fundamental principles then, if not the expensive degree?
That's what Kaufman tries to distill.
Okay, let's get into it. The absolute basics. Kaufman defines a business really simply. It's a repeatable process that makes money.
Anything
else is a hobby. Pretty blunt.
Yeah, cuts right to it.
So what are the building blocks? She says there are 5 parts to every business. What are they?
Okay, so first, it has to create and deliver something of value, your core offering. What problem does it solve?
Makes sense.
Second, and this is crucial, it's value that other people want or need. This leads straight to his iron law of the market.
Okay, we'll come back to that. What's third?
Third, at a price they're willing to pay. You got to capture value, right? Fourth, in a way that satisfies the customer, their needs, their expectations, value delivery.
Okay.
And fifth, it has to bring in enough profit,
right?
Enough to make it worthwhile for the owners to keep going. Sustainability. Sufficiency.
Got it. Create value, people want it, they'll pay, it satisfies them, and it makes enough money to continue.
That's pretty much the core loop. Miss one, and you're probably in trouble.
Okay, so back to number 2. What people want or need. You said this leads to the iron law of the market. This sounds serious.
It really is. Kaufman hammers this point home. He says, market matters most, more than your team, more than your product even.
Wow. So a bad market sinks everything.
Pretty much. His example is the Segway. Remember the Segway?
Oh yeah, the scooter thing. Huge hype.
Huge hype. Brilliant inventor Dean Kamen. They spent over $100 million developing it.
$100 million?
Yeah. He thought it would change cities. Aimed for 50,000 sales a year.
And what happened?
5 years later, they'd sold only 23,000 total.
Oof. Not even half of 1 year's goal in 5 years.
Exactly. The tech was amazing, the engineering incredible, but the massive market he thought was there.
Just wasn't.
It just wasn't there. The iron law, if people don't really want it, doesn't matter how cool it is.
That's a tough lesson. So does that mean you should run away from markets where there's already competition?
That's where it gets interesting. He talks about the hidden benefits of competition.
Hidden benefits? Like what?
Well, think about it. If there's competition, it means
people are already buying something similar.
Exactly. The market is proven. Someone else has already done the hard work of showing that people want this kind of thing. You're already on the right side of the iron law.
Okay, so competition isn't necessarily bad. It's validation.
It's validation. And you can learn so much. He suggests becoming a customer of your competitors.
Buy their stuff.
Yeah. See what they offer, how they market, their price, how they treat customers, and crucially, what needs they aren't meeting.
So you find the gaps.
Find the gaps, learn from them, and then create something even better, even more valuable.
All right. So understanding the market, understanding what people want, that's paramount. How do you figure that out before you build the next Segway, before the $100 million?
Feedback. You need feedback. Early and often.
Okay, but how do you get good feedback?
Well, first, big tip, Get it from real potential customers, not just your mom or your best friend.
Because they'll just tell you it's great.
Yeah, they love you. They'll sugarcoat it. You need honest, sometimes brutal feedback.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
What else?
Ask open-ended questions. Who, what, when, where, why, how. Listen more than you talk. A lot more.
Okay. Don't pitch, listen.
Right. And stay calm. Don't get defensive if the feedback isn't glowing. Even negative feedback is useful data.
It helps you improve, or maybe pivot.
Exactly. Now, take it all with a grain of salt, but if everyone is totally apathetic, if nobody cares, that's probably the worst sign.
Means no viable idea.
Probably not. And the most crucial piece of feedback.
Let me guess. Money.
Yep. Give potential customers a chance to pre-order. He calls it shadow testing.
So see if they'll actually pull out their wallet.
It's the ultimate validation. If people are willing to commit money up front before it even exists, you might really have something. If not, you've got more work to do on the offer.
That shadow testing idea. That's
Oh.
really powerful. Okay, so you've got market understanding, you've got an offer people seem to want. How do you actually make them desire it? Marketing, right?
Right. And the key here isn't manipulation. It's about uncovering pre-existing desires.
Finding what they already want.
Exactly. Effective marketing finds that intersection. What do people already desire, and how does your offer connect to that? You're not convincing them to want something.
You're helping them convince themselves that your thing gets them what they already want.
Precisely. It's about aligning with their existing motivations. The book mentions core human drives, but a key tactic is visualization.
Visualization.
Yeah.
Like imagining using it.
Yeah. Think about a car test drive. You're not just looking at specs anymore.
You're picturing yourself driving it to work, road trips.
Exactly. You feel it. Or a B&H Photo in New York. Huge store. You can touch and try hundreds of cameras.
Get a feel for it.
That sensory experience, that visualization of life after the purchase, it dramatically increases the chance of a sale. It makes the desire tangible.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. Let's talk numbers. Pricing. This feels like guesswork sometimes.
It can feel that way, but Kaufman offers 4 methods to help anchor it. Makes it less of a shot in the dark.
All right, what are they?
First is replacement cost.
Yeah.
Basically, what would it cost to build it again from scratch?
Like rebuilding a house.
Yeah.
Materials, labor.
Exactly. Often used for insurance or a basic cost-plus calculation. Second is market comparison.
Checking what similar things sell for.
Yep, like looking at comps when selling a house. Very common.
Okay.
Third is discounted cash flow, or DCF, sometimes called net present value, NPV. Sounds fancy, but
Break it down for us.
it's about estimating how much money an asset will generate in the future and then figuring out what that future cash is worth today.
Ah, so for things that produce income over time, like a rental property or a whole business.
Exactly. It helps you value long-term investments. And the fourth method, often the best one,
Yes.
is value comparison. Who is this particularly valuable to?
So not just what it costs or what others sell for, but who finds it uniquely valuable.
Right. A house near a great school is worth more to families with kids. A guitar owned by a rock star. Its value isn't just the wood and strings.
It's the story, the connection.
Exactly. Finding that specific group and the unique value to them can justify much higher prices.
Okay, those 4 methods make pricing feel much more strategic.
Mhm.
So you've got a price, you're making sales. How do you make sure the business lasts? Sustainability,
Right. That comes down to concepts like sufficiency and managing overhead.
efficiency. Is that just being profitable?
It's the point where the business brings in enough profit to make it worthwhile to keep going. It's enough. Paul Graham has that fun term, ramen profitable.
Ramen profitable, meaning
Meaning you're making just enough to cover your basic living expenses. Rent, food, like ramen noodles. You're not rich, but you can survive and keep building.
got it. It's that first crucial threshold.
Yeah. And it's subjective, depends on your needs. Tied to this is overhead, your fixed costs.
Rent, salaries, utilities, stuff you pay regardless of sales.
Exactly. Lower overhead means you reach sufficiency faster, gives you more breathing room, more flexibility.
Especially if you're using funding, right? Capital.
Oh, yeah. If you've taken investment, your burn rate, how fast you spend that cash is critical. Spend it slowly, extend your runway.
Lowering costs seems key then. But you mentioned a caution. Incremental degradation.
Yeah, this is a really interesting warning. It's about how cost cutting can backfire.
How so?
The example used is chocolate makers. Over years, to save money, they slowly replaced expensive cocoa butter with cheaper vegetable oils, used lower quality beans,
Sneaking it in.
bit by bit. Until eventually the product was so degraded, regulators said they couldn't even call it milk chocolate anymore.
Wow, so the cost-cutting actually destroyed the value.
Exactly. Short-term profit gains, but long-term value destruction. Customers notice eventually. The point is, focusing on creating more value is often a better path to profit than endlessly cutting costs that impact the customer experience.
It's a balancing act. Okay, another financial term, break even. People use this all the time, but what does it really mean according to Kaufman?
Yeah, it's often misunderstood. It's not just when monthly income covers monthly expenses.
It's not. Then what is it?
True break-even is when your total revenue finally exceeds your total expenses, including all the money you spent to start up. Ah, the initial investment, too.
Right. So say it cost you $600,000 to get launched and operate for the first year. Then you start making $50,000 a month, more than your ongoing costs.
Okay.
It would still take you another 12 months just to pay back that initial $600K. That's when you truly break even and start creating wealth.
So you could be profitable month to month, but still technically be in the red overall for a while.
For quite a while, potentially.
Yeah.
Tracking total revenue versus total expenses from day one is crucial.
Got it. Okay, another one that sounds complicated. Amortization.
It does sound technical, but the idea is simple. It's about spreading the cost of a big investment over its useful life.
Like that faux dog factory example.
Yep.
$100 million cost.
Spread over 10 million units, making it a $10 cost per dog. Or buying $700 software you expect to use for 10 projects.
You'd count $70 against each project.
Exactly. It helps you figure out if a big upfront expense makes sense by looking at the cost per unit or per project.
Yeah, there's always a but. It relies heavily on accurate predictions. How long will the factory really be useful? How many dogs will you really sell?
Like the Crocs example. They predicted huge demand.
Built tons of capacity, then demand tanked. They were stuck with factories and inventory. Amortization looked good on paper, but the prediction was wrong. It's only as good as your forecast.
That makes sense. Forecasting is hard. What about hidden costs, like opportunity costs?
Oh, this one's huge and often ignored. Opportunity cost is the value of the next best alternative you give up when you make a choice.
So if I quit my $50K job to start a business,
That $50,000 you would have earned is an opportunity cost of starting the business.
because I can't do both.
Exactly. We can't do everything. Every decision to do X means deciding not to do Y, Z, and everything else. Being aware of what you're giving up helps you allocate resources, time, money, energy much more wisely.
We often don't think about the things we didn't do.
It's called absence blindness. We focus on what's there, not what's missing, but those missing alternatives have real value.
Okay. For businesses that do need external money, you mentioned a hierarchy of funding. What's the ladder look like?
Right. Think of it as levels. The higher you go, the more money you can potentially get, but the more control you usually give up.
So what's at the bottom? The best option.
Personal cash. Your own savings. Best way, quick, easy, you keep 100% control.
Next.
Personal credit. Credit cards, lines of credit. Good for smaller amounts, still relatively quick if you have good credit, but puts your personal rating at risk. Kaufman actually bootstrapped his business this way.
Maintain control. Okay then.
Personal loans, friends and family. Very common, but you risk relationships if things go south.
Tricky territory. After that.
Unsecured loans from banks or credit unions. You apply? No collateral needed for smaller amounts, but interest rates are usually higher.
And the top.
Secured loans. These require collateral like a mortgage on property or a loan against equipment. Allows for larger sums because the lender has security.
So the trade-off is generally funding amount versus control and risk.
Pretty much. Bootstrapping with personal funds keeps control, but limits scale initially. External funding fuels growth faster, but dilutes ownership and control.
Makes sense. And the final finance concept, ROI, return on investment. More than just money.
Definitely. ROI is the value you get back from an investment. Kaufman expands this to universal currencies.
Like what?
Time, energy, focus, sanity. You could work 100 hours a quarter a year and make $1 million. Great financial ROI, maybe?
But terrible ROI on your health and relationships.
Exactly. Was it worth it? The return is always relative to the cost, not just money, but all resources invested. And remember, any future ROI is just a guess.
Speculation.
Pure speculation. You only know the real ROI after the fact. So assessing risk is vital.
That focus on time and sanity is a perfect lead-in to the human side of things.
Yeah.
This deep dive gets into some really interesting psychology, like perceptual control. What's that about?
This is a really cool idea. It challenges simple stimulus response views of behavior. It says we act to keep our perceptions of the world aligned with our internal standards or reference levels.
Like a thermostat.
Exactly like a thermostat. It only kicks on the heat or AC when the perceived temperature differs from the setting. We act when our perception of reality doesn't match our internal reference.
Okay. Give me an example.
Overtime pay. Offer it, and some people work more, their reference level is more income, others might work less.
Less. Why?
Because they hit their desired income level faster, and now they act to control a different perception, like more free time or work-life balance. Same stimulus, opposite reaction, depending on their internal reference level.
Wow. That changes how you think about motivating people.
Totally. You need to understand what perception they're trying to manage.
And this connects to conservation of energy, right? The idea that we're inherently lazy.
Well, efficient might be a better word. It's an evolutionary advantage to conserve energy. We generally don't act unless a reference level is violated.
Like the dirty dishes example. Some people don't care until the sink is overflowing.
Exactly. Their cleanliness reference level isn't violated until it hits their threshold. Or think about Roger Bannister breaking the 4-minute mile.
People thought it was impossible before him.
Right. Once he did it, the perception of what was possible, the reference level changed. Suddenly, lots of others did it too. Information that violates our expectations is what spurs action.
So what happens when a reference level is violated, but we have no idea what to do?
That's reorganization. It's that state of kind of random action when you're out of sync but don't have a clear solution.
Feels chaotic, maybe like a crisis.
Yeah, it can feel like being lost, confused, maybe even a bit crazy. The quarter-life crisis, midlife crisis. Kaufman mentions random thoughts like, maybe I should just become a janitor during high stress.
Huh. I think we've all had thoughts like that.
It's your brain trying stuff out, gathering data randomly to figure out how to get back in control. It's actually the neurological basis of learning.
So the advice is, don't fight it.
Don't fight it. Embrace the impulse to try something new, even if it seems weird. It helps you gather info and exit that state faster.
And our interpretation of events also shapes things massively, doesn't it?
Hugely. Our beliefs aren't reality, they're just interpretations of reality. Kaufman's own story is powerful here.
About his P&G job.
Yeah. He initially saw leaving his brand management career as a miserable failure, felt like he'd blown it.
But he reframed it.
Later, he reinterpreted it as a major victory. Why? Because that experience taught him so much about corporate life, what he didn't want, and ultimately led him to discover what he loved and write the book.
Both interpretations are kind of valid, but one is empowering, the other defeating.
Precisely. Choosing a more useful interpretation, even of the past, can dramatically change your ability to move forward effectively. It's a conscious choice.
Okay, moving to some more direct behavioral triggers, contrast and scarcity. These feel more like classic sales tactics.
They are common, but understanding why they work is key. Contrast is about comparison. The example is buying expensive blazers, then feeling like expensive ties are not so bad in comparison.
The first purchase sets the anchor.
Right. You might end up spending more on the ties than you would have otherwise. Scarcity taps into our aversion to loss and delay. Limited time offers limited quantities.
Creates urgency, like the Tickle Me Elmo craze.
Perfect example. Fear of missing out. But Kaufman warns against fake scarcity, especially for digital goods. People see through it and it feels manipulative.
Good point. And how do you keep people engaged over time? Novelty.
Yeah, our brains crave novelty. The Mackworth clock experiment during WWII showed this clearly. Radar operators watching for a tiny blip.
Their attention faded fast.
Dramatically. After about 10-20 minutes without something new, performance dropped off a cliff. We need new input to stay focused.
Like social media feeds or breaking lectures into chunks.
Or even how this book is written in short sections.
Yeah.
Novelty resets attention. Essential for engagement.
And when dealing with people directly, making them feel importance is critical.
It's fundamental. Everyone wants to feel important, valued. It's not about fake compliments, though.
So not the smarmy salesman asking, how you doing?
Exactly. It's about genuine interest. Giving someone your undivided attention, really listening, asking thoughtful questions in a world of constant distraction.
Just truly focusing on someone is rare.
It's incredibly powerful and makes a lasting impression. It builds trust and connection.
Okay, lastly on the human side, group dynamics, clanning, convergence, and divergence.
Right. Clanning is our innate tendency to form groups. Us versus them. The Robbers Cave experiment showed how easily groups form identities and rivalries.
Like sports fans.
Perfect example. Convergence is how people within a group tend to become more alike over time. Think company culture, shared habits, even ways of speaking.
You start acting like the people around you.
Yep. And divergence is the flip side. Groups distinguishing themselves from other groups, fashion trends, slang, ways to signal we're different.
So the takeaway is, choose your groups wisely.
Absolutely. Jim Rohn's famous quote, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Who you associate with profoundly shapes your behavior, beliefs, and results. Be intentional about it."
That's sobering. Okay, let's shift from the psychology to getting things done. Productivity and systems. What's a simple, powerful concept here?
Most important tasks. MITs. Super simple, super effective.
How does it work?
Each day, identify just 2 or 3 tasks that are absolutely critical, the things that will produce the biggest results.
We do them first.
Ideally, yes. Knock them out early, maybe first thing in the morning. It creates focus, makes it easier to ignore distractions, and guarantees you make progress on what matters most.
Even if the rest of the day goes sideways, you've won the important battles.
Exactly. Great for focus and momentum.
Okay, zooming out from personal tasks to broader processes. Systemization. Making things explicit. Why is that so beneficial?
A system is just a process made explicit and repeatable. The magic is, once it's written down or defined,
You could actually see it, analyze it.
precisely, you can examine it, improve it, maybe even automate parts of it. Think Google search. It's an incredibly complex system.
But because it's defined, they can constantly tweak and automate it.
Right. Billions of searches, near instant results, 0 humans involved in the actual search process. That's the power of systemization. It also keeps teams aligned and reduces errors.
And a core tool for systemization is the humble checklist. Seems too simple to be powerful.
Doesn't it? But the evidence is overwhelming. A checklist is just an externalized standard operating procedure. Pilots use them every single flight, regardless of experience.
Makes flying incredibly safe.
Safer than driving, statistically. And Dr. Pernavos's hospital study, introducing a basic 5-step checklist for inserting IV lines.
The doctors resisted at first.
Some felt insulted, but the results. Infection rates plummeted from 11% to basically 0. Saved lives, saved millions. Checklists prevent simple mistakes, reduce mental load, and are often the first step towards automation.
Never underestimate the checklist. Okay, so if you have a system, how do you improve it? Optimization.
Optimization is about tweaking a system to get more output or use fewer inputs. More sales, lower costs, faster production.
But there's a catch, right? Something about premature optimization.
Yes, Donald Knuth's famous line. Premature optimization is the root of all evil. The key point Kaufman makes is you can only reliably optimize one thing at a time.
Just one variable. Why?
Because if you change multiple things at once, you don't know what actually caused the improvement or the problem. You might just be making trade-offs. To understand true cause and effect, change one thing, measure, then change the next. Isolate the variables.
Discipline is key.
Yeah.
Okay, related to dealing with change and problems. Resilience. The turtle analogy.
Yeah, I love this one. Turtles versus tigers. Tigers are fast, strong, powerful, but vulnerable when conditions change.
Turtles are slow, maybe less optimal, but they're tough.
Exactly. Protective shell, adaptable, they can survive lean times. The business world, Kaufman argues, needs more turtles. Resilience is that toughness and flexibility to handle uncertainty. It might mean carrying extra cash reserves or having backup plans.
Things that might seem inefficient in the short term.
Right. Like insurance. You hope you don't need it. But trading resilience for short-term gains, like banks using huge leverage before 2008, makes you incredibly fragile. Resilience is about surviving the unexpected.
So how do you prepare for the unexpected if you can't predict it? Scenario planning.
Scenario planning isn't about prediction, it's about preparation. You systematically imagine different possible futures, good, bad, weird, and think through, what would we do if that happened?
Playing out the what-ifs.
Exactly. What if our main supplier goes bust? What if interest rates double? What if a new competitor appears? Thinking through responses beforehand makes you much more adaptable and less likely to panic when something unexpected does occur.
It builds mental flexibility.
And organizational flexibility. It's easy to skip when you're busy, but it's crucial for long-term strategy.
Okay, nearly there. 2 final concepts for making sense of information. First, the big one. Correlation and causation.
Ah, yes. Super important, often confused. Causation is a direct, repeatable link. billiard ball A hits ball B, causing B to move.
Cause and effect.
Right. Correlation is just two things happening together or trending together. The classic error is assuming correlation implies causation.
Like the examples. Ice cream sales and crime rates go up in the summer.
But ice cream doesn't cause crime. The hidden cause is the hot weather. Or the pizza place ad runs, sales go up. Was it the ad? Or maybe a big convention hit town.
You can't assume the connection.
Exactly. In complex systems, it's hard to prove causation. You need to isolate variables, run experiments if possible. Don't make big decisions based on correlation alone.
And this relates to using proxies for measurement.
Yes. Sometimes you can't directly measure what you care about, so you measure something else that you believe is closely related, a proxy.
Like using website clicks as a proxy for customer interest.
Or mouse movements as a proxy for where someone is looking on a screen. Proxies can be useful if they are actually highly correlated with the real thing.
But they can be misleading.
Very easily. The example given is lines of code as a proxy for programmer productivity. More lines might actually mean less efficient code or more bugs. You have to choose your proxies carefully and validate them. Don't optimize for a bad proxy.
Wow. Okay. That was a lot. We've covered so much ground from this deep dive into the Personal MBA.
We really have, from the absolute basics of business to market laws, pricing, finance, human psychology, systems.
It really feels like a comprehensive toolkit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So thinking about all this, what does it mean for you listening right now?
Well, I think the big takeaway is that business mastery isn't necessarily about the fancy degree.
Right. It's about understanding these core ideas.
Understanding and applying them. Creating value, understanding people, building robust systems, that's the heart of it, whether you're running a huge corporation or just trying to improve your own work.
So here's a question for you to think about. If you had to pick just one concept we talked about today, maybe something about finance or psychology or systems, just one thing, what do you think would make the biggest immediate difference in what you're working on right now?
And maybe a final thought to leave you with, consider that the best investment isn't just money. It's investing in your own learning, in understanding these principles. What could change for you if you really focused on applying, say, just one new idea from this each week? That continuous application, that's where the real transformation happens. That's the deep dive.